everyone. I'm Jim Sim with the president of the Midwest Pipe Band Association. And today's interview is with Jeff Krusky and Cliff Davis, founding members of the Midwest Highland Arts Fund in Winter Storm. We all missed Winter Storm this year, and we thought it'd be a good time to catch up on the history and stories of Winter Storm. Cliff and Jeff, thanks for doing this.
Well, thanks for setting this up, Jim.
Thank you.
Very good. I thought we'd kind of start off with the history of Winter Storm, how the Midwest Highland Arts Fund started, and the how Winter Storm started, which is now the largest indoor piping and drumming, I would say, contest or gathering in the world. So how did it all get started?
The idea truly did have its genesis in the summer of 2000. As a lot of the early participants of our event may recall, the Kansas City Caledonian Pipe Band, which is a local band here in Kansas City that enjoyed a lot of success through the mid 80s through 2000, for lots of different reasons, made the decision to not continue during the summer of 2000. I was a member, Cliff was a former member, our other co-founders, Henry Spangler was a member, Mark Stanfield, Matt Klein was a former member. So we all had a connection with the band. We all enjoyed each other's company, and the problem, if there was one at that point in time, was that the band was a nonprofit. It was a 501c3, which was an IRS regulated charity, essentially. And what we learned was that if a 501c3 decides to close up shop, there are limited options for what to do with the funds or the assets that remain. You could spend it down, you could donate it to another 501c3, or in our case, you could create a new 501c3 to be the recipient of those funds. And that was the decision that was made over the course of that summer. Mark and Henry and myself lobbied pretty hard to continue the legacy of that band in some way, and the decision of the leadership was at that point in time was, if you guys think you can continue this in a non-band competition manner, then we'll consider donating the assets of the band to you. And that wasn't an overnight solution. There were a few, obviously, strings attached. We had to go through the legal formation process of forming a new entity. We had to apply to the IRS to get the 501c3 status, which by no means was guaranteed, or was there a defined timetable that we could achieve that in. They also suggested strongly that we get Cliff involved. Cliff was a longtime member of that band, was a small business owner, had the years of experience that a 24-year-old guy like myself didn't have at the time. So Mark and I made the pitch to Cliff on an unsolicited basis in the summer of 2000 about our idea. And he may have hesitated, but it wasn't for long. And so we really spent the next probably 6 months figuring out what we wanted to do. Is this another summer workshop? Is it a contest? What could it be? Should it be piping only? Should it be piping and drumming? Should we include dancing? We didn't know. All we knew is that we had about $9,000 at our disposal to give it a shot, and that's what we did. So in March of 2001, we had our our loosely assembled board that had agreed to move forward. We applied to the IRS and did in fact receive that charity status, and spent the next, the remainder of 2001 hustling, really, for lack of a better word, spreading the word to anybody we could. We were all competing at that point in time. Cliff with the St. Andrews band here in town, Mark and Henry and myself with the band that we had joined previously, not competing. Rode the solo circuit and printed off flyers and handed them out to anybody who would listen to us. And that was the genesis of it, and that did culminate in the first, I guess, workshop. It wasn't a winter storm workshop. It was just a Saturday workshop. We had Sunday morning private lessons. We had a recital. It wasn't a concert by any stretch that we enjoy now. We had, I think, about 120 people showed up to that first weekend workshop. A lot of them just registered on site. We did have a website. I don't recall really how we would have organized the registration necessarily, but
there was no online registration at that point.
So it was a true shot in the dark. We, if we failed, that was okay. Our sponsor was okay with that because they saw the work we were putting into it. If we broke even, that would have been a wild success. And that's what happened. We broke even. We didn't waste the money. We had no inclination really at that point in time that this would continue for year 2, year 3, or year 20. So that's, I guess, the long answer to your question of how it started, but I'll let Cliff fill in the blanks if there's things I forgot here.
Well, yeah, you've done a real thorough job there. I think we expected about 40 people to show up. And we had 6 instructors. It was a workshop only. It was the Midwest Highland Arts Fund workshop, and which is a mouthful. And but that's what we called it. That's how we marketed it. And like Jeff said, we had over 100 people come in, and a lot of people came in on the day and registered. People were in line 45 minutes before the thing started to come in and register. It was a snowy day, and we had a really nice little group of faculty. Who'd we have? Alistair Gillies and...
we had Lindsay Kirkwood, Alistair Gillies, Chris Hamilton, Ian Macy. They handled the piping side, and then Tyler Fry and Carl Lenny were our first drumming instructors.
So it was, and we had the workshop actually at the University of Missouri, Kansas City Music Department. We used that building as our facility for the workshop. We had kind of a host hotel. It was the Sheraton, which later became the Holiday Inn. And so it was something that we thought was going to be a small 40, 50 person workshop that turned into be a much bigger workshop. So that surprised us and gave us we were very excited about that, and it gave us the horsepower to, we'll do it again. We'll have another one.
And was there contests in that first year as well, or just workshops?
Just workshops, no contests. We didn't have any. I think we thought maybe at year 9 or 10, if after this first year was so successful, we talked about maybe adding workshops at some point. Contests, but it wasn't something that we wanted to get to do right away. We didn't think, and then that changed with when we were approached by the Midwest Pipe Band Association.
Yeah, I don't think we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. Is the short answer. I think that Saturday morning of the workshop, we were overwhelmed. We didn't think ahead of maybe we should have a few volunteers to help with check-in. What if there aren't enough music copies? We printed off copies for 40. We got 3 times that much. So we've got people running to Kinko's at 10 a.m. We've got, we're finding chairs in the hallways. It was a mess compared to the way we have things organized now. But, that is what it is.
Well, that's how Beth Wilson got involved. She came in to just, check it out, and she saw that this line of people, and we were trying to dig for T-shirts and hand T-shirts to people and she thought, these guys need some help. So she jumped in, and that's how she first became involved with the whole thing.
Yeah. And what year was that first workshop?
2002.
2. And there was piping and drumming right from the start.
Yeah, piping and drumming workshop right from the start.
And then was it like a free recital in the evening, or how did the, obviously that evolved into the concert that it is today, but how was that first recital?
Well, that's a great question, because there's a lot of information that surrounds that concert.
So the concert, and really it was a concert. I think it was a recital for those of us that, have attended recitals before. We had an MC, we had a program. I mean, here's our first program was one piece of paper folded in half, to give you some perspective. Now our concert program is about 28 pieces of paper folded in half. It's like we're gonna have to hire a bookbinder here at some point.
It's a 50-page program now.
We knew that I guess we were business minded enough that our goal was not to burn through this $9,000. The workshop, if you kind of cordon that out, is a break-even event. You've got your venue, you've got your instructors, you've got airfare, you've got food, you've got hotel. Figure out how many attendees you have times whatever the charge is, and that can be accounted for on its own. Whereas, and like it is today, if you attended the workshop, you get a free ticket to the concert. Now, we knew we needed to have people in seats. We needed to make it appear as full as possible. Well, 120 people on a 1,000-seat venue doesn't look too impressive. And so we knew that we would need to augment that, and from a revenue source, get members of the public to come see this event. I'm not a marketing guy by training. Cliff certainly is. Between ideas and Mark Stanfield and I walking around the plaza with a handful of pliers and a staple gun, and that's the truth. I mean, we went to every coffee shop we could. We found telephone poles.
High school music departments, yeah.
Anybody who would listen to us, and just threw it all out there. And we had, I guess from the public, we would have had about 100 people.
We had about 100 from the general public, and we expected 40 from our workshop, and then we had 140, and then 100 from the general public. So we had about 250 people in seats at the concert.
We recorded it. There is a concert from year one. Should be on iTunes.
It is.
So I mean, we did have the foresight, I guess, looking back on it, to record it. We sold some CDs. It was, looking back on it, it was a good training run for the concert that we enjoy today.
Well, we tried to figure out how to market this concert with these flyers, and we thought, well, the Midwest Highland Arts Fund Recital, that doesn't have a ring to it. So I'm not sure if it was Henry or Mark or the both of them.
Yeah, so that's your Winter Storm. I mean, that Winter Storm, the Pipes and Drums concert.
So they said, let's call this thing Winter Storm, the Pipes and Drums concert, and so that's how we marketed it with these flyers, and people liked the name Winter Storm. They thought that was kind of a cool name, and at the time, the internet was a lot different than it is now, and there were some forums, like Bob Dunsire was the big forum that everyone exchanged information on, and our participants were calling the weekend Winter Storm, the whole thing. They liked the name. And so we eventually just changed the name of the thing to Winter Storm, because that, just as a name for the whole event. Our thought was, well, if that's what our customers are calling it, that's what we got to be calling it. So that's why we changed it to Winter Storm.
Interesting. And I don't remember a couple of years were kind of dicey, but January in Kansas City, I don't think we've had too many winter storms.
No, we really haven't. We've had some bad weather, but not really. Jeff, didn't we use the Farmer's Almanac to try to figure out the weekend with the least bad weather in January?
That's how we make decisions around here, is we consult the farmers. That is true, because we had the entire calendar at our discretion. If you get too close to the summertime, you're kind of competing against your own base. People are in bands, people are competing. If you're back towards the end of the calendar year, people may still be tired from the prior contest year. You've got holidays, you've got school. So, was January 19th or 20th a good weekend? Yeah, I guess it was. And that ended up being fortuitous because, it piggybacked onto a holiday weekend, and you had college kids some of which still weren't back at college yet, or at least had that weekend off. You had families who could have an extra travel day, and so we found that that just worked out well for everybody. But it is true, historically in Kansas City, that is one of the calmest weather weekends of the year. But over the past 20 years, we've had three weekends where there was travel problems getting out. Sometimes travel coming in, but I don't think that there has ever been a time where all of our instructors haven't made it.
No, that's right. And typically, travel problems, weather-related problems, are happening with connections, not in Kansas City, but in Newark or wherever. Yeah, so.
I've always been amazed at the structure of the Midwest Highland Arts Fund, that it takes dozens and dozens of volunteers to put the weekend on. But the Midwest Highland Arts Fund board is really not that large of a group. Could you maybe talk about the structure of the Midwest Highland Arts Fund?
So it's unconventional compared to most civic-minded organizations. We don't have a mandated regular rotation of directors. You don't have a president-elect, a president, and a president emeritus. You don't have that regular cycle. We toyed with the idea of having membership, paid membership for the organization for voting or other type of organizational activities, and decided against it. I think looking back on it in the early years, part of it may have been ego-driven. A lot of it was control-driven. We held on very tightly to what we were growing, which wasn't healthy in some respects, but it got the job done, I think. We've worked hard over the past 15 years to attract outside candidates to be on the board of directors. Very difficult. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's
a ton of work. Most people don't. Most people, when they think about being on a board, think about voting and making decisions and offering their advice. But Jeff's right. It's a lot of hours that go into running the event, and that's just from the board perspective. And then, of course, we have over 100 volunteers that assist with the weekend. It couldn't happen without those volunteers, that's for sure. So,
yeah, whether it's right or wrong on how we organized it, that's anybody's opinion, I suppose. But it works for us. That choice, I think, has created continuity of quality. But there becomes some brain drain, I suppose, when somebody wants to. I tried to resign twice, and Beth wouldn't let me. So you kind of, once you're in it, you're in it. I mean, I'd have to be like, even if I was in the hospital, they would probably find a way to like keep me involved. So it's, for better or worse, the board is small for a reason. But to those that are watching, if you want to have a second job that pays nothing, then we're happy to interview you.
Yeah, that's right. You're familiar with the no compensation volunteer time, aren't you, Jim?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
So going forward then, after that first year in 2002, maybe talk about the growth of the event going forward after that.
Well, the foundation for the event has always been the workshop. That is our basic mission, is to provide education for young learners, adult learners, and that is really the core of what we do. But the contests are the more exotic part of what we do. It's the more spectacular part, and that all started when we got approached by the Midwest Pipe Band Association to look at putting on a silver medal piping contest. And we were approached after the first workshop. Ian Macy thought we had done such a tremendous job with organizing our workshop. Of course, we thought it was not nearly as organized as it should have been, but apparently he was impressed. And apparently he had been talking with the Midwest Pipe Band Association, Scott McCauley and others, about putting on a silver medal contest somewhere in the United States. So he approached us. I believe it was at Alma, Michigan, at the Alma Games. And then he was going to be judging in Kansas City, so we set up a meeting for Kansas City in June at the Kansas City Highland Games. After that event, we met with him for breakfast. And we as a board, made an instant decision, yeah, we want to do this. We'll be happy to do this.
That's true. I found a letter that I wrote to Scott McCauley in his capacity as, I think he was a director of the association at that point in time. Late June, essentially a letter of intent for both parties. We knew if we were going to do this January of 2003, we needed to get hustling on, rules, on, the physical design and minting of a silver medal. You can't go down to the trophy shop and get those. So finding how we're going to do that, judges, just basic stuff. And so we were reliant on the association for suggestions on how to run a contest, but ultimately it was up to us on really promoting it and structuring it and making it happen. So 2003, we had the workshop again, but it was augmented by the silver medal, which was held on a Friday afternoon here at the Marriott Hotel. We had 28 people sign up, which, shocking. Andrew Bonar competed in that very first event. Doug McCrae from the 78th, Adrian Melvin, Ken Sutherland from San Francisco, who won the first silver medal. We had Jack Lee and Mike Cusack as judges. So that was a turning event for our organization. That put us on the map. That wasn't, I don't think, our intention. We were facilitating a request, and we can talk more, but that propelled, the next 10 years were exponential in terms of contest growth, number of contests, number of competitors, and just the footprint that we were able to establish in North America.
Well, that coupled by the internet and the way the internet was developing at that point, and we were able to use that as a marketing tool. That really, it was just a perfect storm in terms of timing, because the internet really helps you market so easily.
So you brought in the silver medal the first year. So it was that was the only contest in 2003. Is that right?
Yep.
And then going forward from there, how did it develop into what it's become?
Well, the progression was silver medal piping, gold medal piping. Then we introduced the gold medal snare drumming along with amateur snare drumming. Then we added gold medal tenor drumming and amateur tenor drumming. Then we added gold medal bass drumming and amateur bass drumming.
Oh, we bit off a lot more than we could choose. So
then we added the amateur piping.
So it's interesting, Jim. In preparing for this, I went back and looked. I mean, I've got every year saved in a separate folder, and as you know, the years blend in, so I have to go jog my memory. And so, like I said, we hosted the first silver medal in the afternoon. We had our instructor reception and dinner that night, and Jack Lee, who that was his first year at Winter Storm, said, "You guys should just have a gold medal event." We're like, I've known you for like 6 hours. Why? He's like, well, why not? And that is probably how most of these contests grew. Not necessarily because we wanted to create more work for ourselves, but because our instructors and our judges, who have a far greater influence and just experience than we do, saw the event as a way to expand or augment what traditional contests didn't or couldn't offer. And that really helped us scale. So in 2004, we would have had the silver medal piping, gold medal piping. The next year, we offered not only amateur and gold medal snare drumming, but we brought in tenor and bass that same year. So 2005.
The first year?
No, 2005.
Okay.
So 2003 was silver medal, 2004 silver and gold, 2005 we brought in, check this out, 2005 we had more drumming instructors than piping instructors.
Well, that seems appropriate.
Well, and it's always it's always a the running joke about where should your resources be, and we fell into that trap the first year, having 100% more piping instructors than drumming instructors. Well, now we're giving drummers an outlet. Where do you find a tenor contest in 2005? Yeah. You don't. We created the rules and the score sheet from the ground up, with the help of Tyler Fry, Scott Curry, Haggis. Where do you find a solo drumming contest? You don't. And so you build it. You get guys like Duncan Gibson, Steve Foley, Khalil, who have seen the good and the bad. Maybe they've seen a games try to do it 5 years ago and it sputtered out. But we gave these guys a platform, and we saw that people will show up and they'll compete and they'll keep coming back. And so that really helped us scale, I think, for the next several years.
I think you make a great point, because all these world-class guys that came into Kansas City, have come into Kansas City to help us with this event, have offered suggestions and ideas, and these guys are the experts, and so we more often than not take their ideas and run with it. So
I think it helped out because we weren't beholden by a sanctioning body. We could bring in whatever judges we wanted to. This wasn't a qualifying event for necessarily anything. It was a way to, when else are you going to be able to play for Reed Maxwell, Jim Kilpatrick, and Eric Ward sitting all at one table? You can't get that really anywhere in the world, now or then, probably.
And that kind of leads me on to another question that several years ago, all the names you've mentioned really up to this point have been North American based. And then you started bringing in all the big names from all over the world. and at great expense to your organization. I would assume there was a conscious decision to make that financial leap. And I dare say I don't think you'll find a larger collection of the biggest names currently in the game, whether they be players or adjudicators, anywhere in the world on any other day, including things like the World Championships and what have you. But when was that decision made, and when did that all start?
Year two, 2003, we brought in Jim Kilpatrick. That was our first foray into bringing in what I would consider, not a heavyweight, but year two, we brought in Jack Lee, Mike Cusack, John Cairns. So you got all the double gold medal winners right there. You've got Jim Kilpatrick, you've got Duncan Gibson, you've got Tyler Fry, you've got Reed Maxwell, I believe was the next year. So I don't know if it was there probably was a financial consideration to, how much you wanted to spend on bringing these guys in. Part of it was, just being selective, I suppose.
Well, and then we wanted to have the highest quality event in the world. And that drove that, and our thinking was build it and they will come.
I think, another way to answer the question, probably in 2004 through 2006, and this is really driven more by piping, is we were experiencing such great success with the silver medal event that we truly wanted our silver medal event to be a bona fide qualifier for the silver medal in Scotland. That's obviously fraught with political minefields that we discovered very quickly, but we wanted to, if we couldn't bring our message to Scotland, we wanted to bring Scotland to us, would maybe be a better idea. We brought in Andrew Wright for many years, who was president of the Pembroke Society. That served two purposes. One, you've got a world-class instructor that is teaching the silver and gold medal set tunes to our attendees, but you've got somebody who can go back and vouch for us. And that, I think, became a model for a lot of the guys who we brought in. Obviously the first couple of years, we're beating the streets and spreading the message to anybody who would listen. Honestly, after that, we really didn't have to. If Jack Lee and Reed Maxwell tells their core, you guys should go to Kansas City next year to compete, they did. And so you've got instructors who are, you're starting to see the advent of telephone lessons. You didn't have Skype lessons back then, but you had people getting instruction by phone. And our instructors spread the word for us. You guys should go compete at this event, bring your younger brother who can go to the workshop. Next thing you know, you got a family of 4 showing up. That sells out the hotel, that sells out the concert. Everybody's happy, and it becomes it's a very holistic event. And that, we achieved that probably by year 5, I would guess.
Yeah, and it became such that everything was interactive with the other. So, the contest, the workshop, the concert, the winter steam party after the concert, the social aspect of the whole weekend. It was all integrated, and you have to have all those parts to make Winter Storm. That's just the way it is now. If you take one of those parts out of there, it's not the same.
And that's a great segue for my next question, Cliff. And it's going to be very open-ended, but over the years you mentioned things like the winter steam, the big party after the concert, the amateur events, the live streaming that goes all over the world. And a few years ago, the Alliance of North American Pipe Band Associations, which for many years held their meetings every other year all over North America, traveled, has really found a home now at Winter Storm due to your hospitality. And the Pipe Band Association presidents from the RSPBA in South America and Australia and New Zealand and all over North America all meet there every other year now. And everybody in the world has now seen what it is. And I agree with Jeff's comments earlier about Winter Storm should become a qualifier for the top piping and drumming events in the world. It's by far the largest solo event anywhere, I would think, outside of Scotland. And I think it needs to happen there. But I know as a member and attended many meetings at Annapolis, we appreciate your hospitality. And it's really become a gathering of piping and drumming people, almost like a Mecca at that time of year. Maybe you can comment on just how big it's become.
Huh. Yeah, it's a behemoth. It really is. It's huge, and those are really nice things to say, Jim, and we appreciate that. Of course, the Midwest Pipe Band Association has been an integral partner for us, and our relationship and our partnership has been significant and very, very important for the success of Winter Storm. So we appreciate that a lot, Jim.
Well, it's our pleasure. And I know several years ago there was a little bit of pushback about our financial contribution. And if you've never been there, you really shouldn't speak to it. But once you've been there, it's the best thing our money can spend, I think. It's just a wonderful weekend. But going forward, maybe I could just ask you both, since you've been involved since the beginning, what are some personal highlights you've had over the 20 years?
For me as a drummer, getting to meet and know these wonderful people that have come into Kansas City, it's just been so much fun. That's been the real reward for me. Nobody on the board gets paid a dime, and in fact, we've been major contributors to the event personally. But to get to meet these guys, to see them play, and make that concert work so well, and look how serious they are with the judging aspect of it and teaching. It's just an awe-inspiring experience for me. That's just the whole thing.
Well, I could list off quite a few. The concert is just an awful lot of fun to put on. For years, Mark Stanfield and myself worked really hard at kind of programming the concert and thinking to ourselves, I get to tell Willie McCallum what I think you should play. You played an MSR last year, so I think you should play the hornpipe jig. They run with that for a little while, then you figure out that they've got it under control. But what really became fun is, maybe 5 or 6 years into it, we had a great concert playbill kind of planned out, and by the time we had picked up a van load of guys from the airport, before we even got back to the hotel, they had scrapped the entire concert program and had come up with something brand new and something 10 times better. And so that's when I realized that these guys enjoy the ownership of this event. It isn't a recital. You're not going to see somebody get up there and play some marches. You're going to, you can go back on YouTube over the past 10 years and see that kind of stuff. And I think part of it is that audience is highly educated. This is not something that is your church basement, Sunday afternoon attendee base. These are people that, have been to concerts. They've seen what these guys are capable of. If I had to pick one concert highlight that would drive that point home, 2007 maybe. We had, for whatever reason, about 8 members of the 78th Frasers that were in attendance. You've got John Cairns as an instructor. You've got Doug McCrae competing. Johnny Rowe happened to come in to compete, and a few others. And we saw that and said, what if you guys just did kind of an ad hoc 78th performance? And wouldn't it be cool if you played Journey to Sky? All right? And unbeknownst to me, they had already been talking about it. And we were able to go quickly on a Saturday morning to get some floor toms from Explorers. Well, and we managed to get it all together, got the sound check. I was excited for it because I'd never seen it in person. You know, that's a CD that we've all worn out, you know, many times over growing up through the pipe band experience. Well, what I didn't know is this had been in the works even before that, and they're playing on stage, and about halfway through, a third of the way through, Reed Maxwell walks on stage with a rope tension drum that he had brought with him from Canada. So, I mean, I don't think I would have had the gall at that point to call up Reed and say, hey, why don't you bring a rope tension drum on the airplane with you, along with all your stuff. But, you know, it goes to show you that, you know, that's what they wanted. And it made for, you know, just a very special moment that crowd, when they saw the connection between, you know, Reed, where he came from, Reed, where he's at now, the rope tension drum, the video, the old VHS video that people would have seen, you know, from the late 80s. You know, you can't repeat stuff like that.
Well, I just thought it was so classy. Drew Duther's the lead drummer, and then here comes Reed, you know. And so as the former lead drummer, I thought that was just so much fun and very, very exciting, and it sounded great.
You know, I think overall the holistic highlight is the award ceremony. You know, we've hosted 2,700 competitors over the past 19 years. And you know, Jim, you've been at the award ceremony. I mean, as a parent, you know, seeing these young kids, that, you know, it's like the best day of their life. So that's very fulfilling to me.
And you can watch those youngsters grow too, right through the grades. It's really good now.
Oh my goodness, we've seen players go from amateur status to professional status here at Winter Storm. It's quite cool.
You remember who won the second drumming gold medal?
I do not.
Steve McWhirter.
That's right.
He won it twice, if not three times, before he won the World Solos.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the very first winner was Eli Fugate. And then he came back, and I think he won it again, didn't he?
Won it last year?
Yeah.
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 Terrific stories go on and on. I remember, I won't mention the name, but a piper won the silver medal a few years ago, and then just before he was awarded the prize, found out his mother had passed away. And, you know, you get these stories year after year like that are just life-changing events for many people.
Yeah.
Another thing, you were mentioning the concert and the award ceremony. I don't think we can go any further without mentioning the longtime fixture of both would be Ken Eller. And the job he does emceeing the concert and emceeing the award ceremony, he does a wonderful job.
He does. He is such a class act. He's known by everybody. He's such a positive, optimistic person by nature, and a very talented, you know, player. And he does such a great job of emceeing the concert and then emceeing the award ceremony. He puts in countless hours. I mean, he works so hard for this event. He's a wonderful guy to know, I'll tell you that.
So where do you gentlemen see this event going in the future? I don't know how it could possibly get any bigger or better, but what do you think?
Well, from my perspective, Jeff may have some ideas here, and of course Beth Wilson, the current president, would probably have ideas, but I think that we're pretty much at sea level right now in terms of what we can put on in a 3-day, 4-day workshop and contest. I think Jeff and I were talking about this the other day, that we think that we're at maximum capacity, then someone else comes up with an idea and we run with it, and somehow we find a way to make it work. But I don't know what else we could do. Maybe more live streaming of more events simultaneous during the contest day. That's it's expensive and it's technically difficult, but that would be one thing, I guess, to try to do more of that, to give someone an option of watching all of the contests and picking and choosing. But I don't know, that would be one idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're limited only by physical space and proximity to kind of where we develop this physical compound. As I parked today, the Holiday Inn next door is being torn down. So we've got that. We've got the Marriott that we're at now, that we occupy every single meeting space in the hotel. Every single hotel room was sold out at Winter Storm. We can walk to the concert venue. We could go to lots of different hotels, as I'm sure anybody that has attended our event before knows. This hotel lets us do a lot of stuff that I'm not sure any hotel would trust us with, at least that first year. So when you've got people playing bagpipes on top of a piano at 3 a.m., that's, I'll stop there, I guess. So we went to a 4-day format last year. We really were forced to put the amateur event on Thursday. I thought that would diminish the total entries. It didn't, so that was a good decision. With the absence of the Holiday Inn next year, are we now forced to move some of our professional events to Thursday? And no matter what we do, there's going to be people that don't like it. People don't like change. I don't like change. But there's, unless we move to a different hotel, now you're dealing with how do you get to the concert. It's a kind of a big Rubik's Cube.
Well, it is, and so we're talking about Winter Storm, all the different facets of it. Well, then the facets of our venues all interconnected. The Marriott Hotel, the Community Christian Church, which is really a great place for our concert because it's the right size. We can sell it out every year. We've got a giant green room that's available for our performers. We've got the Simpson House, which is an adjunct concert or contest location now. There are other places nearby that we can bring into the mix, but we like having this location because, like Jeff said, you can walk to the concert from the host hotel. It's easy to get there. It's easy to manage, and so and the Marriott here has treated us so well. We have a 5-star relationship with this organization at the Marriott. They're just phenomenal people, and they understand our event completely. Like Jeff said, it took a few years. The first couple of years, it was a negotiation and trying to get some of these things accomplished. But now that once they got used to it, they really do enjoy our event, actually. So.
Of course, Winter Storm could not go on without huge financial support from all the sponsors and volunteers and financial donors for the event. I'm just wondering what you would have to say in that regard.
Yeah, these sponsorship relationships Winter Storm does not happen without sponsorship. It cannot happen. And we've had some tremendous piping and drumming companies that have supported us through the years. We've had small distributors that have sponsored with us. We've had patrons of the arts that have contributed to us. And that mix changes over the years, but believe me, this event does not happen without sponsorship and contributions, that's for sure.
Well, and I think, having a core group of sponsors, long-term sponsors, people that are ready to commit for 5-year chunks is really important to us, because we plan in 3 to 5 year chunks. Where is our budget going to be this year versus next year? If you look at travel expenses, for example, I mean, I'm sure travel expenses are 50% higher than they were maybe even 5 or 7 years ago.
That's right.
And as a nonprofit, our job is not to, build up the bank account. Our job is to plow it back into this organization and build new things, offer new things. And that's having a reliable group of patrons who can reliably provide really generous prizes, generous prize money. I mean, if you look at the 50 and 60 page program, there's probably 5 or 6 pages of content. The rest is advertisements. I mean, that is, we've got people that have advertised since day one, and will continue to do so, because this is a good way for them to spend their money. I mean, this is, not an inexpensive event to put on.
Well, and that's a great distinction to make between major sponsors and advertisers, and those are really two different groups of support. But we have a lot of advertisers in our programs, probably 30 advertisers at least, plus all the major sponsors. And we do a very good job of recognizing our sponsorship. With our website, there's a sponsor page, and all the logos are there, and in the contest and the concert programs, as well as signage and banners all around Winter Storm. And we do a very good job of making sure that people get recognized during the event, and I think our sponsors really appreciate that.
I would agree. As being one here with the Midwest Pipe Band Association, it's always good to see our banner, but to where that money is going when you attend the event it really makes you proud to be a sponsor of the Midwest Highland Arts Fund and the Winter Storm Weekend. And if someone was interested in being a sponsor or a donator or an advertiser, I'm sure they could just go to the website and contact you folks that way. And what is the website for the whole event?
Well, we have 2 different URLs. One is mhaf.org, or winterstorm.net. Either one gets you to the same place.
And if anybody's interested in becoming a sponsor or an advertiser, certainly go there for next year's event. And having said that, I'm sure everything is already starting to be planned for 12 months from now, the 2022 Winter Storm Weekend, whatever shape it does take. I wish you guys all the luck with that. And we look forward, believe me, we really look forward to being there, having that pint at Winter Steam on that Saturday evening.
Thank you, Jim.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for this. It's been an educational journey to hear the history of Winter Storm and how it happened and where it's going. And I hope we can see each other in person, if not before, at the Winter Storm Weekend in January in Kansas City. Thank you both very much.
All right.
Thanks, Jim.